The fastest strategy to make your first $1,000 as a small creator is simply to copy and paste what already works. Now, I know that sounds too simple, but if you're building your channel around your real world experience, the truth is you're probably too smart for your own good. See, that prior experience tricks new creators into thinking that they've outgrown the need to ever copy, and they end up going nowhere as a result. So, to avoid those months of trial and error myself, I copied strategically, and my second video hit 135,000 views. My fourth hit 241,000, and in total, my first 30 days brought in $1,470, which is why in this video, I want to introduce you to what I call strategic emulation, where you systematically extract what works from successful creators and then swap in your experience to make it your own. Now, if you do this halfway, it's lazy, and if you do it wrong, it's plagiarism. But if you follow each step in this strategy, it's the smartest, fastest route to your first $1,000 as a creator launching a business here on YouTube. But look, I get why this might sound wrong on the surface, especially if you've spent years building real knowledge and experience in the field you'll be creating content around. You're probably thinking, I have something better to say than what's already out there. I don't need to copy. And you're right, you probably do, but what takes new creators months or even years to figure out is that having access to better information in here, even if you put it out into the world, means nothing if you don't have the ability to effectively transfer it to your audience. This book on my shelf might have incredible value, but if it never gets opened, it's just decoration. And if it didn't get packaged and positioned the right way in the first place, it would have stayed on the bookstore shelf before even coming home with me. Strategic emulation fixes this by taking the packaging and the structure and the format that's proven to work for other creators' content and products that actually get reach and that sell, and uses it to deliver your better, unique take inside of it. And this is really no different than what I see in my day job as a creative director, where even when senior members join our team, they follow the existing playbooks first. They learn what works in our business and in our industry's context first before trying to add their signature. But for some reason, 99% of new creators with real world experience in an area who are now making the leap to creating content believe that their unique specific knowledge allows them to bypass this part of their creator journey. So their videos end up flopping and they never make it to that first $1,000 or any of the multiples that lie far beyond it. So let's get right into it by breaking down the three core components of strategic emulation, which are form, function, and substance. Let's start with function because that's where every video and product idea begins, where you identify a problem you can solve or add your voice to. Maybe you watched a video called How to Build a Second Brain and you thought that they're completely missing the point because that's not what actually works in practice. Or maybe you see people in the comments of a video who are struggling with something that you figured out years ago at your consulting job. That's your function. It's the actual value that you want to deliver to people. And when we emulate function, we identify the problems that are actually worth solving in our audience's eyes, because not everything that you think is valuable actually is in practice. The shortcut here is to copy what's already working. What problems are people actually paying attention to? What promises are thumbnails and titles making that are actually getting clicks? And then importantly, what products are those same creators selling to solve those problems more deeply? Form, on the other hand, is the shape of how that value gets delivered. It's the structure of the content and the pacing of how information gets introduced. And it's also how the curriculum or chapters or sections play out inside of those digital products. Essentially, form is the container that holds your function and that makes it consumable. When you emulate form, you map out exactly what happens when. If you take an educational video, for example, maybe the first 30 seconds is the hook and the credibility, and then the next 2 minutes are spent explaining why the most common approaches fail. And then 3 minutes are spent teaching the new framework, followed by 2 minutes showing proof that it actually works. Now, these first two, the function and the form, are what you strategically emulate from successful creators. But there's also that third component of substance. And I think a good analogy to explain substance is a chair. Every chair has basically the same function. You sit on it, and most chairs have a pretty similar form. There's legs, there's a seat, there's usually a back, maybe some arms, but is that chair made of wood or metal or plastic? Is it upholstered in fabric or leather? See, it's that substance that makes each chair feel completely different. And as a creator, your substance is your experience and your examples. It's your tone of voice and the messaging and your specific methods for solving a problem. And this is the only part that should be originally entirely yours when you're starting out, because it's what makes your version unique even when you're using the same form and function as someone else to get it delivered. All right, so let me show you the exact process for doing this. Step 1 is to look for 4 to 5 creators who are just a couple steps ahead of you in your space. Let's say you're starting from 0. That means you should be looking at channels with 25 to 50K subscribers. If you have 10K subscribers like me, you should be looking at channels with 50 to maybe 100K. These are the creators who have figured out what works, but they're still using strategies that are within your reach at your current level. Step 2 is to use a browser extension like vidIQ to look for their outlier videos, which are the ones that performed maybe 2 to 3 or 5 times better than their channel's average. This outlier effect means that the promise in the title and thumbnail was valuable enough to click on, and that it delivered on that promise enough to stick around and watch. So as you find those outliers, open up Figma or Miro and copy and paste their thumbnails and titles into a big reference board. And note down for each one what the hook promised at the beginning of the actual video and the general problem that it solved overall for the viewer. Next, pull the transcripts below each video. Go through them and map out exactly what is happening chapter by chapter. Ask yourself, what are the big sections and arcs that the video goes through? Then dig into what happens inside each of those sections. Where do they land examples? When does proof show up? How do they transition from chapter to chapter, or from the general problem all the way to its solution? And if you want to go a step further here, after you've done that, hover over the video heat map and cross-reference it with the structure that you just created. Did they, for example, spend 3 minutes on a setup right before a peak? And that valley might be intentional pacing that makes the payoff land harder, which caused that peak. Or maybe it's just a ramble that lost people unnecessarily. So ask yourself contextually, was that dip serving a purpose, or was it just dead air in that section? And note all of that down so that you know what valleys to keep for pacing versus which ones to avoid. And all of this together will become your form as a template for your next videos, which brings us to step 4. Step 4 is to take these ingredients and use them to start creating your own content. Start with function. Look through the outlier videos that you captured and select one of the exact problems they solve as your starting points, and pair it with a successful title and thumbnail, ideally each from different videos. Now, once you've done that, start making micro adjustments to each to make it your own. For example, put your face on the thumbnail, or adjust colors and fonts, and maybe give the title a twist where, for example, the original was 5 productivity mistakes that creators make could instead be 5 productivity mistakes that analysts make, or 5 productivity tips small businesses make that cost them $10,000. But all of these changes should be small, and they should all be pulled from successful videos. Now, for the actual script, pull up that form template that you just extracted from the other video structure and start working through the macro chapters and the micro moments within each chapter using your own substance, where they told a story about their failure at minute 3 to reinforce the way that this commonly goes wrong. Instead, you tell your failure story and maybe a different way that it goes wrong from your experience. Where they listed 3 mistakes, you list 3 mistakes, but again, from your past failures that you've experienced or witnessed. See, the idea here is that the structure stays as intact as possible, but your language and your way of speaking and your examples are what gets people over the same functional obstacle or problem, just in your way. And this same process works for products. Go through all of the descriptions of these creators' popular videos and check what they're selling. What do they title it? Is it maybe hidden inside of a newsletter, or is it super clear right there at the top of the description? Click through it, check what the price point is, what is the function of the product, and what form does it take? Do they all sell Notion templates for $47? If they do, that's amazing. Create your own Notion template solving the same function, using the same pricing point, but with your unique system inside of a form that's similar to theirs. Now, this process will be hard at first, but once you go through it 10 times, you'll really start to find your voice, and it'll feel less like copying and more like a puzzle to solve. But I know what's probably happening in your head right now. You're thinking, this sounds like a lot of extra hard work. And the truth is, you're right. This is a lot of hard work to get right. But the path of a creator is hard no matter what. The only question here is which hard that you're choosing. See, your instinct is going to be to skip what I'm showing you here. It's going to be to jump in and start creating videos and products in a way that feels natural to you. But that's exactly why most creators with real-world experience end up getting 12 views, while some 20-year-old with half your knowledge will get millions. And it's not because they're smarter than you. They don't have more valuable ideas to share. They just chose a different hard than you did. And the truth is, spending months on completely original videos that end up going nowhere, wondering if you're shadow banned or why no one gets it, that's also hard, and honestly, maybe it's even harder. See, the strategic emulation path here is to accept a constraint where you front load the hard part of this journey by taking your value and funneling it through what already works as a delivery mechanism. And this feels weird and it feels limiting, like you're dumbing down your content or being inauthentic. But constraints are what makes things work effectively. Sonnets have 14 lines. Haikus have 17 syllables. Twitter had, I think, 140 characters at the start. That constraint can look like a limitation, but it's what makes your value actually reach people. So yes, it's hard to not do it your way, but that constraint of figuring out how to funnel your experience through proven structures is exactly what speeds up your journey from $0 to $1,000. Now, that said, just because it's hard does not mean that it has to take forever. So to speed up this process, I'm going to give you my own set of prompts that I use with AI to condense what used to take me hours and days of manual work into now just a few clicks. Now, the first prompt I'm giving you is something I'm calling the form extractor, which takes any successful video transcript and it breaks it down into its exact structure, both at the macro and the micro level, so you understand precisely what happens in each section and why it works. The second prompt is designed as your substance discovery tool, which really just helps you backfill that form that you extracted with your own experiences so that you don't have to stare at a blank template and wonder what to fill in. You can grab these prompts for free in the description of this video, but before you do, I have to warn you here. When you see how mechanical and simple they make this part of the process, you're going to feel like you're cheating, like you discovered a loophole that really shouldn't exist. But before you start to feel guilty, let me tell you, the reality is everyone is already doing this at every level, including and especially at the top level with the most popular YouTubers. If we pull up YouTube right now and search Ali Abdaal, who has 6.42 million subscribers, the very first video from 3 weeks ago is titled "Financial Freedom is Easy After You Learn This," and it has over 300,000 views. But with a little searching on YouTube and using vidIQ and tools like 1 of 10, you can start to see patterns if you search this title. as it turns out, Ali is far from the original creator of this concept. But this isn't just Ali. Look at literally any niche on YouTube and you'll see the same thumbnails with different faces. You'll see the same titles with just one word changed. The same proven templates will show up in video after video. Products are the same story. Go look at what creators are actually selling in your niche, and I guarantee that you'll find very similar products in terms of function and form, but each one will have different substance layered in based on that creator's background and perspective. So at a surface level, they'll feel different, but look underneath and you'll see they'll have the same function and form. And let's even use my own channel as an example. My fourth video called Creators, If You're Ambitious But Lazy, Please Watch This. And it has a thumbnail that says F Discipline. I literally found a thumbnail style that was successful at the time and I added my face to it and I changed the text and colors to match my brand. And I found a different title format from a different video and I simply added a clarifier word at the beginning with creators, and I mixed those two together, and then inside of the video was layered all of my own stories and examples and points, which were organized inside of a proven video structure that I extracted from a third source. And the result, as you can see, was 241,000 views, and it was just my fourth video. See, the truth is, nobody cares that you're emulating success. And actually, it's really quite the opposite. They care a lot. If you look at the comments on that same video, people aren't saying, hey, this thumbnail looks like so-and-so's. They're saying things like, this is probably my new favorite quote of all time, or this is exactly me, or I can't believe that this is free. This has cleared up months of questions and how-to issues. Thank you so much. Now, sure, occasionally you'll get someone who feels smart or seeing through the matrix who will comment something like, I saw this thumbnail or title somewhere else. Good for them. They aren't your audience. Hide the comment and just move on, because for every one person trying to feel smart by pattern matching, there's 1,000 people just trying to solve their problem, and your substance, when it actually reaches them, can help them do just that. Now, obviously, some people take this way too far. They copy the exact thumbnail pixel for pixel, or they use the exact title character for character, or they literally steal word for word a hook or an intro. But that's just lazy plagiarism, and it has nothing to do with strategically emulating what works and then making it your own. And frankly, plagiarism is the easy way out, because strategic emulation is hard, at least at first. But what I found is that two things change over time if you stick with it. First, the awkward part gets easier. All of the second guessing around how to retrofit your ideas into proven structures, over time, you'll develop instincts around that and it'll get easier. But second, you'll build what's called brand equity, which is the accumulated trust from every video that delivers, and every thumbnail's promise that you actually keep, and every product that actually helps someone. And that equity converts into something called brand allowance, which is how much experimentation that your audience will tolerate. Right now, you have zero equity and no trust bank. And that's why someone like Dan Koh can spend the first 10 seconds of his video talking about his haircut and people will still watch. He's earned that allowance over hundreds of videos. You haven't yet, so you can't, because that freedom is earned. You don't start there, you start here with strategic emulation. So to get started, let's outline the full strategy in a clear action plan. First, identify 3 to 5 successful creators in your space that are a few steps ahead of you. Then create a Miro or Figma board and screenshot all of the functional components of their outlier videos, the thumbnails, titles, descriptions, and note down the functional value that each video delivers. Pick one video example that matches a problem that you want to solve. Use the AI prompts that I gave you to map its form into a template. Backfill that template using your substance. When you get stuck, use the discovery prompt that I gave you. Record that filled-in template as your first strategic emulation video and don't overthink it. Release that first video to break the ice on your channel and then do it again and again. And while you're creating those videos, use this same approach on the product that you identified. Create your version of their simplest, most obvious product. Price it the same, format it the same, but Fill it with your substance in the same way that you approached your video content. Then link it in the descriptions of your videos, just like I do with the creator playbook below. And then after you deliver value in each of the videos, simply call it out in a way that they can save extra time or money or effort in solving the same problem that you're solving in the video, just a bit faster or better or easier. Then keep that same singular product while you repeat this process again and again for your videos. And that's it. That's the step-by-step plan. But to help you get started while this is still fresh, let's start with a simple exercise. What I'm going to do in a second is pop up a link to one of my most popular videos where I myself used this exact same strategic emulation process. And here's what I want you to do with it. First, open up that video, and while it plays, scroll down and copy the entire transcript below the description. Feed that transcript to Claude or ChatGPT using the prompts linked in the description of this video to extract all of its form. Then take that form into Notion or Google Docs and watch the entire video on one screen while comparing it to how AI broke down the form structure into a template on the other screen. This will immediately help you understand how all of the macro and micro ingredients of the overall form are filled in with my own specific stories and examples as its substance. And once you see how this works side by side, reverse engineer it yourself. Take that same structure that AI extracted and start filling in your substance with your stories where my stories are, your examples where my examples are. And if you get stuck, and you probably will because finding your own substance feels weird at first, have AI help you. Use the second AI prompt that I gave you to surface your relevant experiences and examples and proof points that are really hard to think of cold without that prompt. So if you haven't yet, go ahead and open up that link and spend the next 10 to 20 minutes doing this exercise while it's fresh. And once you understand how simple this actually is, I promise you, you're never going to look at successful content the same way again. So I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for being here. Hit the like button if you haven't yet, and I'll catch you in that next video.